From Kentucky, Senator Rand Paul will look at what is happening in the world and where we need to go. Rand, Senator, how are you, sir?
Very good. Glad to be with you, Glenn.
It is always a pleasure to have you on. Let's start with the Middle East and what's happening in the Middle East. What do you think? Are we running guns to Syria and were we running them to the rebels in Libya?
You know, I think the real question is who are the rebels in both situations and what will happen if they take over. I think we can all agree that Assad's a bad guy, but there's a large population of Christians in Syria, and from my understanding, they're quite concerned about the rebels taking over.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not too happy with Assad, but they've found Assad to be more accepting of the Christians than even the government that got established in Iraq after the war.
We are. What do you suppose? I mean, how deep is this this story on Libya and the killing of the ambassador? I mean, we're seeing reports that we have all the documents sitting in front of us. The White House Situation Room had live video of what was going on. We had the rapid forces ready to move. The battle went on for 7 hours. The White House did nothing. Nothing.
It sure smacks of a cover-up and sort of a politicization of something that was really a serious problem that, there are several questions I would ask, and I probably would have been a little more forceful in the debate the other night. I would have asked, Mr. President, where were the uniformed Marines? How come the ambassador had no Marines protecting him? And now with this new information, how come nobody was sent in to help? But really what has really angered me about this whole situation is 4 days after President Obama turned down the DC-3, the plane that they wanted for security and that they had requested, 4 days later he spent $100,000 greening up the embassy in Vienna, promoting his global warming initiative. And really, I think when you are making political statements with embassy and State Department dollars, and you will not provide basic security for probably the most dangerous country in the world right now, I think it's inexcusable, unacceptable. And if the buck's to the president, somebody should be fired. He should make a decision that someone made a grievous error.
Let's go to the budget here for a second. Pat, play the sequestration question from the debate, and then the new audio in the Des Moines. This is from the debate the other day, Senator. Here it is.
First of all, the sequester is not something that I proposed. It's something that Congress has proposed. It will not happen.
Okay, he says it won't happen. Here he is in 2011.
That's going to happen, one way or another. We've got $1 trillion locked in,
great.
And either Congress comes up with $1.2 trillion, which so far they've failed to do, or the sequester kicks in.
Okay, there he goes. I mean brilliant.
Here's my question. I'm laughing throughout the whole thing because I'm thinking, he says he didn't propose it. The president signs legislation. He signs this. So I was one of the ones who voted against the sequester. But I think it is sort of ironic that the people who actually supported the sequester are all the ones squawking about it now. Philosophically, I think it's actually probably a good idea to give overall top-line numbers that we have to reduce both military and domestic spending. But you can't have it both ways. The president signed this legislation, supported it, and now is saying it's not going to happen because he's worried about the politics.
But he also said in the debate that it's not going to happen, and then the very next day he is in the Des Moines Register in a conversation he thought was off the record, and the Des Moines Register thought it was important, so they printed it. So when you combine this is Obama, quote, so when you combine the Bush tax cuts expiring and the sequester in place, the commitment of both myself and my opponent, we're going to be in a position where I could believe in the first 6 months we're going to solve a big piece of this business. So he denies and says it's not going to happen. 24 hours later, in an off-the-record conversation, he not only says it is going to happen, he's a champion for it.
Well, I think he's used to creating his own truth and creating his own facts, and I think that's why he looked so unhappy the other night. I joked that after watching that debate, I was wondering if the president was aware that he was on screen the whole time because he looked so unhappy every time Governor Romney would speak, and every time Governor Romney would remind us that 23 million people are out of work and the president spent trillions of our dollars and it's just not working. I think that message alone is strong enough that it should sway the election.
Are we at the point, nobody has brought up QE3. There's a new report out today that the German auditor wants their gold audited at the New York Fed. They've already called their gold back from the London Central Bank. I mean, yesterday we reported that there is a factory in China that the Australians have found that are making fake Australian gold bars. There is something really we're on the fiscal edge, not only as a nation but the entire planet. Are we at the point of no return with QE3, or can Romney get in and actually get it done and turn it around?
My concern is that when panics occur, they don't occur gradually. We've been destroying the currency gradually for a long period of time, but it's accelerated with the printing of money under Bernanke over the last year or two. And my concern is that we may not get a period of gradually increasing prices. We've had some increasing prices. You know, the gas prices have doubled, food prices are rising. But I'm worried about a panicky situation where 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4. 2 plus 2 equals a million as people panic and flee the dollar. And we've always been lucky because people have always fled the other currencies that are weaker than our currencies, and they've fled to the dollar. And so we get an irony of stability here. But people call it having the cleanest shirt in a closet full of dirty shirts. I'm fearful of the time when people skip the dollar and go directly into gold. And when I've asked the economists about this, they say, well, yeah, there's not enough gold in the world. And I say, well, there's not enough at $1,700 an ounce. What about $17,000 an ounce? There's always enough gold at a certain price.
Yep.
If people are fearful enough of the paper money.
It's like, you know what? It's they'll say, well, there's not enough Warren Buffett stock out there. Well, yeah, there is. At $80,000 a share, there's plenty of them.
Yep. You're exactly right. And the thing is people come up to me all the time, and we're not talking about radicals. We're talking about regular working folks, professionals, and they come up to me and they say, what can I do with some of my money? And I always advise, own something that you can hold. One is gold, but own a rental house, own some kind of piece of real estate that in a time of crisis you actually will have something left if the money is destroyed.
All right, so let me give you this story. In the China Daily paper, they say the renminbi block. I thought the Chinese dollar was the yuan, but have you heard of the renminbi? I don't even know what it is. Do you know what that is?
I think it's another name for the yuan.
I thought so too, but I wasn't sure. They have now formed a pact in East Asia. This, according to the China Daily. 7 out of 10 countries in the region are now abandoning the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency in favor of the renminbi. And they note that the renminbi-dominated trade accounted for 10% of China's total foreign trade in last July. The figure was 0 2 years ago. This is already happening. They're already beginning. The world is beginning to abandon the U.S. dollar.
Yeah, and when we are no longer the reserve currency of the world, see, we've had it really fortunate. It's worked in many ways, but it's a house of cards. We run up a massive debt, then we also have a massive trade deficit. China, we buy their products, they have all these dollars, then they buy our debt. We keep interest rates low, and all of this is sort of a game. It's a house of cards where we shuffle things around. But if and when people catch on that the emperor has no clothes and interest rates begin to rise, an interest rate of 5% could make it, our country could make it us incapable of paying our interest.
I want to ask you a tough question here, Moran, on the libertarian. The libertarian is, I think most people are libertarians. When you ask them questions, they respond like libertarians, but then they get herded into these parties. And the parties are extraordinarily dangerous, as George Washington said. However, I can't believe this. I'm saying this, but I'd be like an anti-progressive or a progressive libertarian. I think you need to dismantle what they've built one step at a time as fast as you can. But the other idea is revolution, collapse and revolution. And there are a lot of libertarians that say, the whole thing's just let it collapse and then we'll go back to the Constitution. It won't work that way because you have revolution and they never usually work out well. And we need to.
I don't want to see chaos and blood in the streets. I'm a much stronger belief in a slow and gradual reform of the system, and that's why I tell people all the time: the quicker you get started, the more gradual the reform can be.
Exactly
you have to get started on Social Security and Medicare. They're broken. They're insolvent. day. Medicare's $35 trillion short, Social Security's $6 trillion short. The sooner we get started, the more gradual the reform can be. If we wait another 10 years, could we last? Perhaps. But then when we get to the 10 years, it's going to be an enormous dislocation of everyone to try to fix these programs.
Okay, so here's my question. I know you don't speak for your father, but I saw something that your father said that he said, there's basically no difference between Obama and Mitt Romney, and he won't endorse. And I understand, I don't endorse anybody either. However, you do look at these two guys, and there is a huge difference in the speed. There may be, you say they're going in the same direction, but the speed is different, and it gives you time to be able to not go into collapse or revolution. Isn't it time?
To me, it's more the general philosophic difference in the sense that President Obama truly believes that the answer to making the economy grow is to grow government. And I think Governor Romney believes the opposite and knows that you have to grow the private sector in order to have a government sector at all. It's paid for by the private sector. So those are just two opposite philosophies. Now, is my father right sometimes on foreign policy? Do both of them believe in intervening everywhere all the time? I think our foreign policy has been too much of everywhere all the time, and I think we should moderate where we are and keep in mind that our national defense of our country is preeminently important, and that being everywhere all the time is very, very expensive and sometimes counterproductive.
Okay.
So I think there are some similarities sometimes on foreign policy. And when you watch the debate, you don't see a great deal of difference, really, on foreign policy. But on economic
policy, you certainly didn't the other day. You certainly didn't the other day. The other day, it was like, oh my gosh, they're agreeing with each other on everything, which was a little disturbing. Thank you so much. I appreciate all the work that you're doing. May I leave you with this one question? I have heard rumors that the Republicans are planning on defunding about 80% of Obamacare and not repealing Obamacare. This is something that Romney has said he will do. He will repeal. Is there a chance that the Republicans don't really understand the American people if they win?
Yes, and the battle's not over if we win. I hope Governor Romney wins. I'm working for him. I'm campaigning for him. But if he wins, that's the beginning of the battle, because then the battle will be over. Many Republicans will want to just do Obamacare light, and that's not what I'm for. I'm for complete repeal. I'm for market reforms. So I have a bill that I'm going to introduce in the lame duck session that will be the replacement bill. It'll be a vast expansion of the HSAs. It'll be multi-year insurance where you can have a constant premium for your whole life with an increasing deductible, and give people alternatives for the people right now who can afford insurance but don't want to buy it, and also for people who can't afford to buy it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Rand. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Glenn.
Senator Rand Paul, one of the good guys in Congress,